Hi, I'm Richard Perry. I'm one of the team members here at STV Machinery, and today I'd like to talk to you just about some of the things to consider when you're looking at buying a used moulding machine. Used machines offer a really good entry point to the market for a lot of people. Typically the costs are lower, but also if somebody's looking to replace a machine really quickly, then used machinery is often the way to go for that as well. However, you really want to try and avoid buying somebody else's problems, so some of the pointers we'll go through today are just some tips that I think you should look out for when you're looking at any used machinery. Okay, so there's quite a few things that you can do even before you go and see the machine, just a few things to sort of think about. First of all, the person you're going to see, do they actually legally own the machine, or is their finance still outstanding on it? Generally, you can speak to them and you can get a good feel for whether that's the case, but also you could ask to see perhaps the original invoice and get a feel for it that way. Also, you can ask, is there any history available for the machine? At STV, what we do is each machine that we sell actually is supplied with one of these work completed forms, so you get a good feel for all of the work that we've done with it, which typically includes a lot of resealing work as well as the general cosmetic, but each machine can have its own sort of sheet like that you can have a look through. Sometimes the machines will be supplied with a service history. A lot of people do keep hold of those. If they don't, then you can have a look generally around the machine, and typically you'll find the machine plate will have a serial number on it, and then you can contact the manufacturer with that serial number to see if they actually have any record of it. The manufacturer of a used machine is particularly important, not just because it needs to be a familiar brand that perhaps your team or your staff are familiar with, but also for spare parts and support. So we tend to sell quite a lot of Arbergs, Boys, a lot of general or sort of German machines, and they do come with really good support most of the time. If you're not too sure, then obviously you can see generally the name of the machine will be around somewhere, and just have a look on Google, contact some of the local suppliers if you can, see what kind of support and availability they have. Again, you can check the machine plate that will have the year on it, so you can speak to the manufacturer and see if they're still supplying parts for that year. If they're not, then it might be in for some potential high cost repairs because you can't get hold of the parts, but we can sometimes help with that as well. So one of the easiest things to see when you first go and have a look at a machine is just the overall general condition of it. In fact, you can get a good feel for this just from pictures or videos perhaps somebody might send to you. It's quite easy to make a machine look good, but you'll be surprised by the number of people that actually don't just do that sort of simple step. So that gives you a bit of an indication as to how the machine has been run. You can get a bit of a feel for, has it had lots of tools placed on it? Has there been somebody with a blowtorch that's been getting too close and has damaged it? How's the machine been treated? It's a bit like a car, where you can get a good feel for perhaps the internal condition just from looking from the external condition. Then you can start to have a look at, or perhaps just get the information on the run hours, the general specification of the machine, and the age of it as well. However, you have to consider these things in isolation, because you could well end up looking at buying a machine that's perhaps only 10 years old, which hasn't had a good life, it's got really high hours, it's not been well looked after, when in fact you'd be better off buying a 20-year-old machine with maybe even lower hours, or one that's been much better looked after. So just sort of take everything as a general kind of guide as to whether you think it's worth sort of going for. And what we'll do now is we'll just have a bit of a look around the machine and to go into some more detail about what to look for with specific components. Also, one of the major considerations you need to sort of have in your mind is whether there is going to be any support either from the person you're buying it from or from a manufacturer, if indeed there is still a warranty on it, in case you do have any problems. So here at STV Machinery, every machine we sell is refurbished and it's supplied with a 6-month fault and leak-free guarantee. So that should hopefully give people confidence that if there are any issues, it's down to us to sort out. There aren't that many used machines that sort of come with that sort of guarantee, so all the more reason to have a look at some of the checks we're going to do today for that used machine. Okay, so taking a bit more of an in-depth look, again, it's really important to inspect the machines. Always recommend if you can do that. We still do that for our customers at STV. Please come and see us. But having a look at the clamp unit to start off with, again, just take a general sort of look at it. What kind of condition is it in? Are we seeing lots of leaks or grease or oil around it? Is it nice and clean? Is it tidy? And then having a closer look at the platen faces here. Are the platen holes, all the mounting holes, do they look to be in good condition? Have they been used extensively over the years? A lot of the times Particularly if you're an in-house moulder, they'll be using the same holes all of the time, so that can present an issue. We refurbish them all here, so it should be less of a problem from us, but definitely worth considering for your tool mounting. Are there any sort of dinks or dents on the paintwork around here? A lot of moulds obviously have to go in and out of machinery. People take varying degrees of care, so yeah, something to consider, particularly if they're on the tie bars. Are the tie bars nice and smooth, or are there dents that have been taken out of them? These can present some issues further down the line if there are dents, because they can rub along the seals and you're going to be getting a leaky clamp unit that you can't do much about. So you can really get a good feel for how the machine is being used just on that sort of little bit there. Also sort of on the shoes that are down here, is there lots of grease around there? Does it still look sort of nice and clean? You don't want to be looking for a dry clamp unit though, because a dry clamp unit is one that probably doesn't have enough lubrication in it, so you've got to look at sort of a happy medium. With this particular machine, it's an Arberg machine with a direct lock, so we've got one main sort of clamping cylinder back here. Again, we need to check that's not scored, has any excessive wear marks, anything that looks a little bit sort of untoward. We need to keep our eyes out for there. If it's a toggle lock machine, you really would like to see quite a lot of grease in the toggle pins and the bushes, again just to make sure they haven't been been grinding dry. That is going to create problems, if not already, certainly very soon after you sort of buy the machine. So definitely something to keep in mind there. But you can get a good feel for how the machine has been treated once you sort of have a look over here. And then also, if you go around to the non-operator side, you can generally see whether the machine has any added features such as core pull or air blast, and again just check everything out sort of back over there. That's the basics, I think, of the clamp unit, so we'll move on now. Okay, with the machine powered off, obviously, I hope that's a given, but please do turn it off. It's a really good idea to have a look inside the control cabinet. Not many people pay too much attention to the control cabinet, but it really gives you a bit of a good feel for how the machine has been run and whether it's been tinkered with in particular. So opening up the cabinet on this Arberg, you can just have a look at all of the general channels, all of the switch gear, all of the cables. Does it all look neat and tidy, or has it been sort of mucked with significantly over the years? You can also see whether there's sort of any cards in particular. If you see on the other side here, that's the card rack on that particular machine. Is there anything obvious that's missing, or is it all complete? Is it nice and tidy? Are there any signs of potential overheating or any sort of issues that might have arisen over the years? The cabinet is also a really good place to have a look for any service history. So a lot of Arberg machines actually have this little pocket that's just over here. So sometimes you'll find the software discs in there, or maybe some service history, or maybe some additional drawings. But again, it might give you a bit more of an insight into what's been going on with the machine, and whether there's any sort of added information that you can glean from it. But generally, it should be really neat and tidy in here, and hopefully nothing sort of untoward or any black marks or anything like that. So really good idea to have a look in the cabinet. So we've just changed moulding machines to the manufacturer, so we're looking at a Negri Bossi now. The reason I've done that is just to show you a little bit about the difference in the clamp unit. So this particular machine, it's got a toggle mechanism which is opposed to the direct lock, and you can see in here a little bit further where you've got all of the greasing points and everything else that you really need to check they are well greased, that it's not particularly dry. This one has been cleaned down, so it's kind of looking as good as they tend to get with toggles. They are a bit of a messier mechanism, but you do want to see grease on the bottom there to prove that it's gone into the pins and bushes and that it's fallen onto the drip tray at the bottom. So have a good look there, make sure there isn't anything that's sort of undue wear that you can try and spot, and just make sure there is grease coming out of all of the points. So just a different type of clamping mechanism. So after you've had a look through the control cabinet, it's a really good time now to turn the machine back on and have a look at the control unit. So when you turn it back on, have a look at it booting up, see if there's any error messages that come up on the screen, but also have a look at the control panel to check for any sort of damage to the buttons. A lot of buttons like mould open, mould close, auto running, things like that, they get pressed an awful lot of times, so they do tend to wear out. So have a look at that, and obviously you can check the emergency stop here. So every machine typically has a different control on it, or every manufacturer has a different control on it, so we won't go into too much detail about the different control systems. But if it's not a touchscreen system, just use the keys, go through it to make sure that it's quite snappy, there isn't any lag that's there, the screen is clear, and that should give you a bit of a good indication that not just the monitor's working well, but also all of the cards that are in the cabinet are okay. If you have permission to do so, I recommend you turn the machine on. Not many people buy machines that they can't see running. It's a bit like buying a car that you can't start. It gives people, sort of the jitters a little bit. So, if you can, make sure everything's sort of okay. Turn the machine on. Now, bear in mind that when you do turn the pump on, if it's a cold machine, more often than not, it will go into oil preheat mode. So it will make quite a loud noise as it preheats the oil. So just sort of keep that in mind. But you can still listen out for similar things that we'll describe when we get around there. But actually, I'll do it now because it does get a bit noisy. But you're listening out for any cavitations, so any unusual noises that are not cyclical, any banging, clanging, things like that. They just sound a bit out of the ordinary. And also when we go around there, have a good look for leaks around the pump area and any issues around the motor. So here we go, I'll turn it on now. So on this Negribossi machine, the motor and the pump are all under here. We've removed the covering, so sometimes you might have to do that to get good access to it. But as I said previously, just try and have a bit of an ear out for anything that does sound a little bit unusual. It should be nice and smooth, and we shouldn't see any leaks or any other issues under here. With the motor on, this machine should allow you to do some movements now. If you've gone into a production environment, if you can, get the machine back into production and just have a good general overview of it actually sort of doing its thing. If it's been off for a while and it is now ready to run, then we can just do some manual movements just to make sure everything is nice and smooth, and again, look out for sort of any leaks. So first of all, with the clamp unit, just making sure nice smooth movements, nothing is spewing out anywhere, and also listening to the pump under load. That's all okay. So do that a couple of times and then sort of see how it goes. And you won't be able to see it because it's behind me, but you can do the same with the carriage movements and just have a look at that. We're going to have a look at the carriage in further detail now anyway, but just to give you an idea, they're the major movements that you can have a quick look at and see how they go on the machine. Okay, so starting at the front of the injection unit with it fully retracted, we can have a good look at the nozzle. This one's been replaced, so it's all nice and clean, but of course a lot of them will have material all over it. But really it's just to have a good look to make sure that there isn't a complete issue and mess all under there. Is it accessible? Does the nozzle look in good condition? And that gives you a little bit of a clue as to perhaps how it's been sort of kept as well. And then as a injection unit as a whole, we've got sort of obviously lots of different designs out there, but generally you'll be able to see the main injection cylinders with all of the hydraulic hoses that are going to it. So just have a good look at those, just wipe your finger around it all over the hoses here, see if you're picking up any residual oil, because that could obviously be indicative of some seals that have failed, or maybe some hoses that have failed, and there could be an issue with pressure dropping off, so just something quickly to have a look at. And then on the back of the injection unit, typically you'll have the hydraulic screw motor or electric screw motors on newer machines, but of course you won't have to worry about the hydraulics then. And again, just a general overview, is it leaking? Does it look like there's any issues? A lot of the time the giveaway on these, if they've been replaced, is there a different colour? And also you could then ask, well, how old is it? Because that might actually be a benefit if it has been replaced, it's been replaced quite recently. A general overview of sort of the switch gear that's on the top here, just to make sure that everything is plugged in, there's no shorts or anything like that you can easily see that's a bit of a problem. So that's kind of the major areas really quickly and really simply to have a look at, which really doesn't take too long. Just gives you a really good feel for the machine as to how it's been used, and more importantly how it could be used in the future, whether there's going to be lots and lots of issues that you face, or even to just address issues at the point of negotiating the price. So obviously everything we do at STV is to try and address all of these issues before the machine goes out, and we do supply each machine with a 6-month warranty, so we have to make sure we get it right each and every time we can before it leaves us. Otherwise it's just extra expense and inconvenience for the customer as well. So hopefully that gives you just a really quick overview. just the things to have a look at, whether you're looking at a machine with us or with somebody else. But do please have a look at our website. Any machines that are available on there and are ready to go, you're welcome to come and have a look at our workshop. Thanks very much.